Games, Brrraains A Head-Banging Life. We are doing another episode of They Made What into a Movie, and it is Max Payne. A game series, a game that I would never in a million years ever thought that would be adapted into a movie. Because while the whole noir action side of things in the game could work in a film, a lot of the elements, the fact that it's mostly run and gun, didn't seem like you could really tell a story there. Not only that as well, elements of Max Payne, the video game, that make it so iconic, e.g. the slow motion diving and shooting and stuff like that. That's out of date in movies, thanks to The Matrix.
Yep.
So to get this in 2008 was like, okay, all right, they've done Max Payne, let's see how it goes. Obviously, based on the 2001 video game by Remedy Entertainment and Rockstar Games, written by Bo Thorne and directed by John Moore. The film stars, here we go, here's your problems, Mark Wahlberg in the title role as Max Payne, Mila Kunis as Mona Sachs, Ludacris as Jim Baruvia, can't say that last name, and Bo Bridges as B.B. Hensley. It was released in October 2008. The film was able to take the top spot in the box office in its opening weekend and grossed more than 85 million worldwide. It made quite a substantial, it made quite a substantial amount of its budget. Maybe not as much as they hoped, but for a video game movie, it was very successful. Easily over double its budget. So, we begin in darkness. Get used to that. As we hear Mark Wahlberg doing some narration about heaven and pain and fear and death. It's very much like, okay, all right, it's Max Payne. That sounds like Max Payne, but that's Mark Wahlberg speaking. That's Mark Wahlberg, and it's one of the biggest problems of this movie for me. We then see him breaking through the surface of icy water. He sinks back under, and we do get a wicked shot of him floating around other bodies. This is also where we get the first hint of the whole dead wife kid plot point that is quite important to Max Payne. So important that this movie will ignore it for over half of its movie time, which is another problem. Now, early on, I must say, with this shot on the water and all that, one of the things this movie has going for it is stylish as fuck. It is very pretty to look at. It is shot wonderfully. There are some moments, one in particular later on, that I just went, wow. Like, I out loud went, wow. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I was so impressed with the snow, the buildings, the entire structure of the background. It was, to me, that was Max Payne to a T.
Exactly that. And you know, most of it was CGI.
Oh, really?
Including
wow.
the city. Including
That's
the
impressive.
city. Bloody well. 12 years later, that shit holds up impressively.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a solid start, damaged by what I already pointed out, which is Mark Wahlberg's vapid narration. He does this voice where it's supposed to be deadpan and uncaring, but like that to me is it doesn't come across well in film.
I don't like Mark. I don't like him as an actor because for me, I listen to him talk. He acts the same way in every single movie, even the comedy ones with Buddy Will Ferrell. He's the same character every single time. His voice,
no,
yeah, I don't like him to stop. His voice is so dreary. He reminds me of to say he's a drunk guy who just got given an acting part.
Strong words. I don't really care. I don't care either way. I've seen many Mark Wahlberg films. I've enjoyed some of his work. I've not enjoyed lots of his work as well. For me, he's not someone I care. If he's in the film, I won't worry about it in any way, shape, or form. However, this is miscasting. This is a bad decision to put him in this role.
Yep.
Anyway, we then cut to 1 week earlier, and at a New York police station, we see a new cop being shown around a precinct. He has walked through the cold case side of things and then taken to the cold case office where Max Payne works. Now, for those who don't know, cold cases are cases that have gone dead, effectively. There's no leads. There's no evidence. There's no way. And it's gone cold. The trail has gone cold. And this is a thing in real life. You know, exists in real life. There'll be many unsolved murders, unsolved crimes that are just put in a filing cabinet. We'll come back to it, hopefully. It might be reopened years down the line if new evidence or new leads come about. But as of right now, that's what cold case is. The new cop then asks the sergeant about Max, who promptly fills him on Max's past and tells him to leave him alone. One of the earliest problems of this film. Show me. Don't tell me. This part is all Max Payne's moody. Max Payne's not your friend. Max Payne's got a dead wife and kid. Max Payne.
Yeah.
It's like, just show me then. Show me this shit. But we won't see that shit for a long time.
No.
We then cut to random shots of Max looking at guns and ammunition while thinking about his wife. Get used to looking at guns instead of seeing him actually do anything, because am I going to complain a lot as we go on about this. We then cut immediately to a subway station, and Max dressed in. This annoyed the fuck out of me so much. A horrible roll neck. So they put him in the leather jacket, but for some stupid reason, they went, nah, I don't like the shirt look. Put him in a roll neck, which just, I think, makes him look stupid all the way up to his neck here.
Yeah, I mean, he's supposed to be he's a detective, you know, and they always dress smart.
I just don't, it just yeah. How hard is it to copy what the video game did? And later on, it will briefly do that. But right now, I'm like, how hard is it? Briefly, yes. How hard is it to put him in a literal white shirt? How hard is that? You've already got the jacket. How hard is it to put a white shirt in? Why didn't you?
I'm going to take a guess because Mark Wahlberg refused.
It'd be a weird refusal.
Wow.
However, I did get excited here because I was like, oh, subway station, video game. Mm-hmm. We're the video game part. So he walks past 3 druggies, and you know they're druggies immediately because they're sitting at the subway going, might as well, you know what I mean, sweating and scratching themselves. And it's like, yep, them, you know. And he purposely flashes an expensive watch. It's very clear he does it on purpose as well, because as he walks past them, he's like, you know. He goes into the bathroom and is followed by the 3 druggies who pull a gun on him. Max isn't scared, though. He's after one of these people specifically, who Max thinks has information that might lead him to his wife's killer. I do like this scene because I like Max's confidence.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I like the fact that he's not scared, and he immediately puts these drug guys, even with a gun, on the back foot. Like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, it comes across, as we obviously know from the game, that basically he doesn't. If he dies, he doesn't care.
Yep. No fear. Yeah. No fear.
Yeah.
However, I still am just like, shut up, Mark Wahlberg. Shut up. You know? Max beats up the one holding the gun. Another escapes down the tracks, while a third one, Max wants hides in the stalls. Max kind of shoots them out, scaring the criminal, and demands to know if he knows his wife, showing him a picture. But obviously, when you're demanding answers from a druggie, you're not going to get much, as this guy is jacked up and talks about wings. Get used to hearing about wings. Things now get really fucking weird. Really weird. As the one running down the tracks is seemingly being followed by flying winged creatures. We see their swooping shadows. He panics and seemingly is knocked down by one of them and then gets hit by a train. Now, early on, right, I think I've got a fair and decent explanation for what these things are. One that I think I can accept, and the film does a decent enough job of explaining to a degree. However, it just early on creates more questions than it needs. I remember my thoughts when I first saw this film. And I went, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? What is that in Max Payne?
But bearing in mind, literally, I saw this movie for the first time literally 2 days ago, and then watched it again yesterday. When I first saw that scene, I thought, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
And then it reminded me of the scene in End of Days when Schwarzenegger is being chased by the devil in the train tracks. I thought, what the hell's going on? I was confused. I thought, hang on, I played Max Payne. I don't see no fucking winged creatures, I mean, I understand the marks and the story of it, but the creatures, no.
No, absolutely. On your first watch, you'll be confused as hell. It will resolve itself to a degree by the end, sort of. We then get one of many snowy shots of this New York, the CGI New York. And I think it looks wonderful. These wonderful shots, such a fucking... You're just like, wow, that... And you're right, what you said, this feels like Max Payne's universe.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the start of this film having like wow, this is a great film.
Yeah.
Then that bit with the weird creatures, like, wow, okay, this film is a joke. Then it goes back to, wow, this is really good. Then there's more scenes coming up, which is like, really?
That's the constant problem. For everything that's good about this film, it then has something that's bad about it.
Yeah.
Max is now visiting one of his previous snitches, Trevor, played by Andrew Friedman, who gave him the information about the druggie that Max just chased down. Max is unhappy that it was a dead end and wants a new name. I don't like Max's way of dealing with this at the moment, which is basically, give me a name. Give me a name. What if he hasn't got a name? All right, Dave, Steve, Mark, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor's having a party and refuses to help Max. And he drops in some exposition here by telling Max it's been 3 years since the death of his wife and that perhaps he should move on. They're interrupted by Natasha, played by Olga Kurylenko, who is full-on flirty with him. From a distance, Max sees a group of rough and tough-looking guys, as well as another woman, who we will later find out is Mona, played by Mila Kunis. Now, I'm going to put this out here right now. Mila Kunis is the worst thing in this film. The worst thing in this film.
Just a bit.
Not only does she not portray Mona in any way resembling the video game character, but her acting is horrendous in this. Her and Mark Wahlberg's brief screen time together are the worst scenes in the movie. And generally, I think you could have cut her out of this, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
I may be completely wrong, but doesn't she voice Meg in Family Guy?
Indeed, she is the voice of Meg from Family Guy.
The entire time, every time I saw her, all I kept thinking was, shut up, Meg. Shut up, Meg.
My wife was doing exactly the same thing during it. And the thing is, like, I've got no beef with Mila Kunis. I think she's a quality actor who's done some damn good stuff, great voice roles and all that. But this is just, again, bad casting. Bad casting.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the biggest problem. Our two leads, two of the video game's most important characters, are poorly cast in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Mona and Natasha are sisters, and they argue in Russian as Mona wants her to get out of here. Natasha in Russian points out that she doesn't hang around with those people anymore. She says those people, and that she's safe with a cop. I like that because it kind of immediately gives Natasha a bit of a sketchy background and then explains part of what will happen in a bit. Max follows Natasha to another room where he sees Natasha drink some sort of blue vial out of a blue vial. He also notices a wing tattoo on her arm. Very important, this wing tattoo. He is interrupted by a pretty intense-looking man with tattoos on his face. This is Lupino, who you'll know from the games, played by Armory Nolasco, who puts in a decent role here, but unfortunately goes out like a chump. But we'll get to that. They stare at each other for ages, each waiting for the other to make their move. I quite like this. It goes on about 5 seconds, and they're both quite intense. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but like one thing I will say they nail quite correctly is the Max Payne from the original game. You never got the impression he was like a tough guy.
No.
You know, and like I get that with Mark Wahlberg's Max Payne as well. Like when Lupino's staring at him, I'm just like, fuck off, Mark Wahlberg. This guy's going to rip you in half.
Bald head, tattoos everywhere. Looks like muscles.
He's going to kick your ass. Natasha is the one that interrupts them, though. And her and Max leave together back to Max's apartment. We then see another woman drink the blue vial, and she starts to see the shadows of the winged creature on the roof. I like this because it's quickly making it appear that the winged creatures are connected to the blue vials, which makes you go, oh yeah, that other guy was a druggie. Oh, maybe it's hallucinations. Okay. There is a flaw in that, in the sense that, well, but didn't the guy in the subway get knocked over by one of the creatures? You could argue maybe he actually tripped and it just gave the impression.
That's what I thought. I thought, okay, well, this is obviously the drug. I mean, can we say the name without being a spoiler?
Oh, of course, Valkyrie.
Yeah, so this is obviously the drug Valkyrie, which is obviously, again, reference to the game.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, I remember playing the game. You got all the little crazy guys shaking on the floor. Maybe it is a hallucination. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But there's a thing coming up which I'll talk about when you say it, which really pissed me off.
Okay, I'm interested to hear. In Max's home, Natasha is all over him, but Max kind of holds her off. Natasha notices Max's shitty apartment as she questions if he's just moved in. It seems as though Mr. Payne is struggling to move on from his wife's murder. It's pretty clear that he moved into his apartment a while back and is never really unpacked. He begins to question her about what he saw while she takes off her dress. He finds her in his bedroom. She clearly wants to sleep with him. But Max kind of holds off. And when he doesn't come over, she gets frustrated and makes reference to his sad life and living alone. She thinks he has ex issues, so suggests that he calls her by whoever's on his mind's name. Obviously, this goes as well as you could expect. Here's the thing. I don't blame Natasha here. She doesn't know that Max has got a dead wife. She doesn't know I mean, don't get me wrong. Saying the whole call me by her name kind of thing is weird.
Yeah.
But she's a weird girl. And but she doesn't know Max has a dead wife or anything like that, so it's hardly her fault.
What annoyed me about this scene here is that you get the impression from the game that the Max Payne from the game, that woman wouldn't even go in his house because he is so hung up over his wife. Naturally, obviously, he hasn't moved on. So that this woman wouldn't even go in his house, wouldn't even made it to his bed. He would have stopped her by the door and said, "Look, you ain't coming in. I want my answers."
I don't get how they got all the way back to an apartment, because, like, if Max wanted enough information, they had to go to the apartment. Why didn't he ask you there?
I mean, unless his apartment's next door, which I doubt it.
I doubt that, exactly.
I tell you what, call me by her name. Like this, you can make love to her just like she never left you. Oh, Max, I miss you.
Get out.
So he kicks her out. We then see Natasha walking down a snowy alleyway being watched by Lupino from the roof. She calls a man named Owen, asking for more stuff. So there's your kind of hint that all the little things about Natasha maybe she's a druggie as well. She is then chased by winged creatures and seemingly killed. There are some excellent shots here of the alleyway and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a bit like, oh, these winged creatures killing her again. Is this the part you're complaining about?
Yeah.
Go on.
Because again, it takes away the theory of it being a hallucination. So the creatures are actually real.
Why?
Well, because, well, I mean, what else was killing her? Unless it was Lupino's man.
It was Lupino. So I put this together. Now, admittedly, the film does not do a good job of explaining this, but I put this together over 2 watches.
I know he's watching it. I know he's watching her from the roof.
That's right. So here it is. Lupino, right? Not Lupino, sorry. The winged creatures that fly in the air are hallucinations. However, later, now we're going to talk about something that comes later on. When Max has taken the drug and is having mad hallucinations over it, we actually see that it portrays people approaching you as the winged creatures. I think what Lupino, who was carrying a blade as well, which makes sense because Natasha's cutting to pieces, is the one that attacked her. But in her head, because of it, she saw Lupino as one of the winged creatures. There is a problem, though. There is a real problem, though. There is one problem with this. For that level of hallucination, we get the impression that comes from severe addiction. We see it with the druggies that are scratching and desperate. We see it later on with one guy who goes out a window, or when you've taken the drug quite recently, as we'd see with Max Payne. How does that work for Natasha? Not only does she seem like she's got all her faculties about her, although we see her take a drug before she leaves, it doesn't affect her until she's walking down the alleyway. Why? That's where. What would have made more sense had we seen her walk down the alleyway and then take another vial of the drug?
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, she's very self-aware.
Yep.
She's not a wreck. She's quite done up. You know, she's wearing a nice dress, nice hair, and you know, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not well done, and the problem is the movie doesn't make this as clear as they should. I put it together. Oh, but Lupino is the one that would kill her. That much is clear, but the problem is the film wants us to think that these winged creatures might be real. That's the problem. The film wants us to think that for some stupid reason, and I don't get why. Why do that?
Yeah.
The next day, Max is getting ready for work, and we see he can't find his wallet. Then we see him going towards the police station, but before he goes through the door, he's alerted to his ex-partner nearby. This is Alex, played by Donald Logue. And he takes Max to where Natasha got killed. She was cut up into pieces, and Max recognizes the tattoo on her severed arm. And it turns out they found Max's wallet at the scene. Alex tells Max to take a ride with him, and we see Lupino watching from above. Get used to seeing Lupino watching from afar or above.
Mm-hmm.
In the rain now, Alex and Max argue about what Max's wallet being at the scene means. Now, this is an element of Mark Wahlberg's Max I hate. He's a fucking idiot. Max is a cop. He knows what his wallet at that scene means. He knows that's trouble. Regardless if he knows he's innocent, he knows as a police officer that is bad news because you know. But he's just a bit too dismissive of it for my liking.
The entire scenes with Alex really pisses me off because in the game, Max Payne makes out that Alex is his closest friend.
Yes,
his only friend, and he treats him like shit in this film. And as you get to the next bit, which I'll jump in the next bit.
So part of what Damon's saying comes from the fact that Alex worked Michelle Payne's case. And Max is very bitter that the case went cold, basically. So that seems to have destroyed their friendship. I know what you're saying, but for me, it worked really well because Alex, Donald Logue, he's one of the best things in this movie. The scene where he's saying to Max, you don't think I did everything possible? You don't think I bent over, you know? I thought was brilliant. I really got it. I got the pain that the character felt.
He plays the part well, but it's just the way Max treats him. You know, I mean, he makes him. I don't know if I can say. He makes him feel like it's his fault.
Yes, but isn't that quite important that you not think to the plot?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not a major point, but it's a point. It's for me. It's used for Max's isolation from the rest of the police precinct later on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Again, I just don't think the film does it very, very well. Do you see what I mean? Like, I feel like I have to sit there and work all this out while I'm typing. Do you see what I mean? So, Max walks off, obviously. Now, this is going to happen a couple of times, and the first one is here. At this point, we are 21 minutes in to a 100-minute movie, and we've had zero action. I do not count a couple of gunshots in the bathroom, stall of a toilet, action scenes. No. 21 minutes in, all story, no action. But fair enough, 21 minutes and 100 minutes, you can forgive it. You will not believe how high that count is going to get. You will not believe. I counted along. Cut to Mona and some important Russian men. She is told about her sister's death. We know this because the guy whispers in her ear and you see her face. So I thought that was quite cool. Back to Alex, who is looking over the crime photos and notices the tattoo on Natasha's arm. It seems to trigger something. So he pulls out Michelle's file and sees the same tattoo on one of the men who was killed in Max's house when his wife was murdered. Like this scene. It's a little too easy. It's a little too easy to be like, oh, put the two together. But we need the story to move along, and this is what we get.
Yeah, of course.
Axe calls Max, but gets his voicemail. We then cut to Mona again, where a beat cop informant is telling her who Natasha called last, Owen Green. He also gives her a photocopy of Max's license, the one that was found at the scene. So you can already see the Mona and Max clashing coming ahead. Cut to Max, and he hears the voicemail from Alex. Alex in the voicemail thinks there is a connection between Natasha and Michelle's murder. Alex says that he's going to Max's apartment. But when Max arrives at his apartment, he finds it broken into. He looks around. The apartment has been trashed and finds Alex dead before getting attacked by a figure in black, a black-clad figure. Max gets his ass kicked, but manages to get off a few shots from his ankle gun into the figure. I don't consider this an action scene. It lasts about 10, 15 seconds, and it's cut in a way that's infuriating. It's in darkness, and it's cut with this red flashing filter. Did you notice that? The red flashes that keep cutting every time Max gets hit.
Yeah.
I had House of the Dead fucking flashbacks, man. But it's barely an action scene. When I mean action scene, I'm talking about guns out, Max Payne style, people getting shot. This is just Max Payne getting beaten up and then getting a few shots off with his ankle gun.
Yep.
Sometime later, Max wakes up in a hospital bed where his dad's old partner, BB, played by Beau Bridges, is sitting. He tells him that a patrol saved him and that Alex is dead. He also tells him that he is now being fingered for it. Max doesn't care, though. He wants to go to Alex's wake. We then randomly, so fucking randomly, cut to a street where a man named Jason is standing. Did you recognize who this was at first?
No, I was looking at him and I recognized the face, but I couldn't put a picture to it.
Same. I was like, said to my wife, who is that? Who is that? We know this guy. It's Chris O'Donnell. Chris O'Donnell. Yes, it's Chris O'Donnell, a.k.a. Robin from Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Wow.
Yep, looking a bit older, looking a bit more filled out, but this is Chris O'Donnell, who does a very strong role in this. I like him in this.
Yeah.
But this scene is pointless, as we see him reading a newspaper, and he focuses on the news about the murder of Natasha and several others, as well as that the paper suggests it could be linked to drugs. He kind of makes a face about it, and then we just cut. And it's like, who was that? Why was that? What the fuck?
Pointless scene there.
Yeah. Max and BB arrive at BB's workplace. Max is wearing a shirt, but it's a black shirt. And I was just like, how? What the? Get this right.
They made the impression to me that I'll look at Max Payne. He's all dark. It's all death. It's all black, but that's not that. Yeah, a white shirt would have been perfect.
It's easy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
BB works at a pharmaceutical company called Acer, and they own a massive skyscraper, and BB is the head of security. When he left the police force, he became head of security for Acer. Inside, Max runs into the head of the company, Nicole Horn, played by Kate Burton. She talks to Max about Michelle. As it turns out, Michelle also worked for Acer. We also here see the man from the street, Jason, alongside her. He's sort of standing in the background looking uncomfortable, like he doesn't want to be around Max. I don't fucking know what's going on there. BB shows that Acer set up a scholarship in Michelle's name. We also here meet BB's second in command, Joe, played by Rutherford Gray. We then cut to the wake, which is taking place at Alex's home. And finally, oh my God, Max is wearing a white shirt. Admittedly, he's wearing a tie, but he's wearing a white shirt. And I'm like, yay, we've got Max Payne. He will lose that white shirt in a short while. Don't get too excited.
Yeah.
Of course, Max's arrival at the wake is not exactly popular. Least of all with Alex's widow, Krista, played by Nelly Furtado. She blames Max for guilt-tripping her husband and slaps him. That's what you were saying earlier on.
Yeah.
And it works. The scene's fine for that part. Mark Wahlberg looks like he couldn't give a fuck.
I know.
Like, here's the thing. They've got this wrong. They think Max Payne doesn't show emotion. And it's wrong.
In the game, you can show it. When Alex gets killed, just a scream of him going, no, because it's his best friend. It's his only friend.
They told Mark Wahlberg to be a stony-faced cop, and it just sucks. It sucks the life out of it. It's bad acting. We are now 30 minutes in. Where the fuck is the action? And we're not getting it anytime soon, because outside the house, Max is stopped by Jim Bavara, played by Ludacris, and he works for Internal Affairs. I actually really like him in this film. I really like him.
So do I, but this scene here infuriates me.
Okay. He insists Max comes in with him, and it comes into his office, where he questions Max about Natasha, Trevor, Alex, and more. Max is being investigated by Internal Affairs. And basically, what fucks me off here is Max stonewalls him and walks out. Like, you are an idiot, Max Payne.
What annoys me about this scene is that, how is he even walking out? Okay, you've got your wallet found at a crime scene. You've got a dead cop found in the apartment. You should be in a jail cell.
Yeah, I think they're letting him walk away. I think while they don't have any hard evidence that he's responsible, there is enough evidence to detain this man.
Enough evidence, yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
Especially as the main cop knows that Alex has got his wallet, and then suddenly Alex ends up dead.
Yep. So Jim gives BB his card and tells him to talk to Max. It is, as we said, very frustrating that Max, as a cop, just refuses to see what all of this means. Because BB even says to him, you know this makes you look guilty. But Max does want to know. Right, I do love this scene. We've talked a lot about the shots, and I love this fucking scene.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Max Payne I want, where Mark Wahlberg isn't saying anything. So they get in the lift. BB and him get in the lift. And as the door's about to close, Max walks out and walks with a static camera following him through the police precinct as every cop's turning, shouting shit at him, getting angry, getting off their chairs. And Max is walking in doesn't give a fuck. I'm going to Alex's office. Wicked. How good was that?
Yeah, it was a great scene. It was a brilliant scene. It was like, it was like your typical Max Payne attitude from the game.
And the hostility around him that's getting stronger and stronger. Where are you going? Get the hell out of here. Don't go to it. I loved it. I really was like, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
He goes into Alex's office where he locks the door and starts looking through the files. One of the detectives is outside, has got very pissed off by this, so starts to kick the door in. Max finds what he's looking for, which is the Owen Green link with Natasha and the tattoo link as well. And he leaves via the window when the police bust in the door. We get some more awesome aerial shots before BB arrives at a local bar to meet Max. Max tells him that he has a lead. Now I grew very suspicious here. BB is fucking is really nice, isn't he? A really nice guy. Like too nice. Too nice, right?
I predicted this. As soon as I saw him, I predicted straight away.
This is where I kind of got it. I was like, oh, Max, you're telling this guy everything. You know everything. I mean, here's the thing. If you know the game, you know Acer are the bad corporation. And if BB's the head of security, that can't be good. I think what helps, right, though, is Beau Bridges, who plays BB, has a really soft and kind face.
I don't know him very well as an actor. I mean, I know him from Stargate. That's it. He's in Stargate, and he's very good in Stargate. And I quite like his character in this film too.
Do you know who his dad is?
No.
Lloyd Bridges.
Wow, really?
Lloyd Bridges of Airplane, of Hot Shots. That's his father.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm right, I know, right?
Bloody hell.
Max walks off, and I love the snowy effect in this fucking film. We talked about it a lot, but him walking down the street, love it, love it, love it. He then sees three burly-looking men, the same ones he saw at the party with Mona, watching him from across the road. So he ducks into an alley and pulls his gun. But as he's backing up, he gets a gun pointed from behind by Mona, who's holding an Uzi. She tells him to drop his weapons and kneel down. He does as she asks. She hits him about a bit with a bat and demands answers about her sister. Max says he isn't to blame and that they're after the same person. Whoa, it doesn't take much to convince her, does it? He's like, I need to find Owen Green and we'll find the person that killed your sister. He almost says his wife, but he stops short. This is the first of a couple of horrendous scenes where it's just like, oh, please, God, no, not these two together.
Yeah, I mean, she was too easy to convince. How the hell did she know that he was going to walk down that alleyway? He could have walked in this alleyway.
Yeah.
You know, it was just too, yeah.
Too easy. It's too easy. I also think Mila Kunis looks very uncomfortable holding the Uzi. Like, she doesn't look comfortable holding that gun. Doesn't look good.
No.
Mona then leads Max to Owen's place, and together they go see him. We see Lupino again watching with a blade from high up. Inside, they find a spaced-out junkie who's seeing the demonic flying creatures. The man is clearly off his nut. Like, this is the most spaced-out one. I don't know what information they thought they were going to get from this dude, but they're getting fuck all. As he's gone crazy, and he's backing up slowly to a big hole in the wall of his apartment. Max trying to talk sense into him. Although for me, it's like, put the gun down then, Max. Put the gun down as the man is backing towards this edge. We then get what I consider the best scene in the movie. This is the one I went, wow. Wow. So I'm going to try and describe it as best as possible. The man starts to fall out the window and we go slow motion. And the camera starts on Max, who starts to run. It slowly moves through the wall, where then you see like the man is being pulled backwards by one of the winged creatures. And it's stunning. Oh, isn't it spectacular?
My biggest fear about this film was the whole bullet time thing of how they were going to do it. Was it going to be stupid? Was it going to be like pictures of Mark Wahlberg freezing in the air, then shooting, and all stupid? That there for me was a perfect bullet time scene. Was perfect. Fact,
let's mention it now. This movie doesn't have lots of bullet time, but when they use it, let's say slow motion then, because bullet time might be a thing. They use slow motion a fair bit, but when they use it, they always use it at the right points. I think they nail the aspect, and they avoid that thing of the Matrix where, as you said, slow motion shooting and stuff like that.
That's what I feared. I honestly thought it's going to be all Mark Wahlberg, two guns going boom, bullets flying everywhere. That's what I thought it was going to be.
So this druggie, Owen, falls to his death on top of a car. It's spectacular. And I do love the contrast as well. By moving through the wall, you see the reality, which is this druggie falling backwards. But in this druggie's head, he's being pulled backwards, which is what we see, that sight. I never thought for a second he was literally being pulled. I thought, man, oh man, that is fucking, I loved it.
I mean,
honestly, 10 out of 10 scene.
The scene with his nails being pulling off by that made my skin cringe, man, because I thought that is horrible, but it was cool.
It's great. We then see another shot of Lupino watching as we see Owen also had the wing tattoo. We then go to Mona and Max talking in the car about what just happened. They arrive at a tattooist that did Natasha's work. 40 minutes in. Now, we still had next to no action parts. 40 minutes into this movie. I am generally surprised if a lot of people hadn't already switched off by this point. At the tattoo place, we get a really long exposition story about the tattoo. The Valkyries, protection, Norse mythology. It's all that shit. And it's pretty fucking boring. Don't get me wrong, it's video game linked. But it's still like, oh, this guy's just here to tell a story about Norse mythology.
Video game linked, and considering like it's quite a rough neighborhood, that tattooist is quick to reveal a lot of secrets.
He is.
You know, he's not scared of the gangs.
To be fair, he doesn't really tell them anything about the gangs. He just talks about the tattoos and what it means.
Yeah.
I wanted to get this tattoo. You in the Marine Corps? This one.
What's it mean?
That's a Norse Valkyrie. Vikings used to wear them for protection. Valkyries fly over the battlefield, picking out the righteous dead. They reward the people who draw first blood. A soldier's angel. In Norse mythology, the only way you get to go to heaven is to die in violence. You die in your sleep, you go to hell.
We then cut to Lupino, who's teasing a junkie here, strapped down with the blue vial liquid. Obviously, it's a drug. We now know it's a drug, as the junkie is desperate for it. It's no matter, as Lupino frees him and then kills him. I think this scene, I didn't really get why they included this scene until the second time. And I think I get it for two reasons. One, it's to show Lupino is very dangerous and unhinged. The other is to show how addictive this drug is. Because the scene of the druggie trying to lick the liquid off the bars after it spills, I was a bit like, oh, okay, this shit's super addictive then.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
At a snowy dock, I was like, oh, that's very Max Payne, man. Snowy docks, yes, please. Mona is dropped off by Max and she goes inside a warehouse to speak to a man named Lincoln, played by Jamie Hector. He talks a bunch of nonsense about the devil building an army, but does name the devil as Lupino. He says she can find him at an old club called Ragnarok. I jumped in my seat because I was like, yes, this is where we get our action. The assault on Ragnarok. There's going to be tens and tens of bad guys being gunned down while Max makes his way to Lupino. That's going to be exciting as fuck. Spoilers, it's not. It's one of the biggest letdowns.
Other than that scene about the old the Ragnarok bit, I like the fact that when he talks about Max Payne, that because even he knows who. I mean, everyone knows who Max Payne is. The fear and what he is and what he's been doing in the last 3 years.
Exactly that. Damon's already said it. He tells Mona to stay away from Max Payne, and in that scene, he sells Max Payne's threat more than the rest of the film. From his talking, quality acting by Jamie Hector, I was like, shit, man, Max Payne is bad news for everyone. We then see Max drive into a self-storage where he has set up a makeshift office in a shipping container. And it's here he's kept all the things from his house that he shared with his wife. He looks through some empty files that his wife had on Acer and finds the logo has a wing on it. Coincidence? Ooh. What I thought worked about this is he probably saw that file 100 times before, but never thought of anything of it because he never had the link. He then meets BB at the bar and wants to find out who Michelle's old supervisor was. BB tells him it was a man named Jason. So that would be Chris O'Donnell's character. Well, Max leaves. BB calls Jim Bavara and tells him to come to his office. He then tells Jim all about Max's wife's death. At the same time, we see Max visiting his now old abandoned house. BB mentions Max's kid, something this film I noticed was desperate to avoid. Was desperate to avoid the fact that Max's baby was also killed.
Obviously, it's a horrible thing, but if you're going to make a game into a movie, that's a major part of the movie of the game. Now, you ain't got to show a dead baby. You ain't got to show like a dead baby in a crib or whatever. I mean, unless they can get away with it.
No.
But obviously, which they can't exactly. So, but you can still reference it. I mean, obviously, it gives you hints, but it's avoided at all costs.
What they should have done is what the video game did, which is you never see the dead baby in the video game. You see the crib knocked over and blood. Now, what you could have just done is drop the blood part as well, because this film has next to no blood in it, and you could have just had the crib knocked over. That would have been enough to make you go, oh.
Yeah.
So we now finally get to see what occurred, which is not this important, massively important character thing for Max Payne comes at 50 minutes in. So you could have been watching this film for 50 minutes and heard that he has a dead wife and kid, but that's it. So 50 minutes in, they finally decide to give you motivation for Max's behavior. It's stunning. Why did you not open the film with this?
They're doing the game.
It is insane, right?
I mean, if you never played the game, which you're in crazy, if you've never played the game, and you're watching the film for the first time, you'll be sitting there thinking, well, hang on a second, he's a cop. All the bad guys, all the crazy people know that he's a murderer, he's a bad guy. Why the hell ain't he in jail? Why ain't he been arrested? Why is he getting away with all the stuff for?
It makes his plight seem pointless. And getting at 50 minutes in, it's just like, it's almost offensive because it's like, oh, now you think we're worthy of seeing the important point about Max Payne's character. The thing that has turned him into the mess he is by Max Payne 3. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Exactly.
So the sequence, it began as a robbery and Max interrupted when he came home. When he sees it as a robbery, he goes upstairs and manages to shoot 2 of the perps, but Michelle was killed. He finds her on the bed, dead. There's 0 blood. I couldn't even work out how she died. I was like, did she get shot? Or did she get strangled? It didn't really make much sense. Supposedly, as we said, the kid was too, but we see nothing about that. We see nothing about that. Also, what I really hate is the lighting. So the lighting is really bright and stuff, as if to be like, this is Max when he's happy. You know, I don't like that. It's like, it's too literal.
What I wanted in that scene, and I know they couldn't do. I wanted Max walking into the room. I wanted a baby crying in the background. You know, that's what I wanted.
Blood on the walls.
You know? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, like I said, the one thing this film is missing is the lack of blood. And there's a scene coming up, which is I don't know if it's me or if it's a movie mistake, but okay. I'll get to it. I'll talk to it.
So the transition from Max staring at his wife's body to Max of the now in the empty room is quite good. BB points out to Jim that they looked ever for the third guy, but never found him. Jim Baruvia is quite understanding, and BB asks him to find Max as he thinks he might be a threat now. This is BB kind of calling in internal affairs to take care of Max. In the rain, we now see Jason as he's meeting with the head of Asa and Nicole. She pulls up in a car and he shows her a file that contains a picture of Lupino, who was apparently a Marine, a soldier in the military. She tells him to take care of it. And I was like, wait, what? What is with these scenes with Jason that make no fucking sense?
Exactly.
Like, we then see Jason arrive at work where his secretary informs him that a police officer is in his office. It's Max Payne. Jason pretends to not remember him at first and plays dumb when Max wants to know what Michelle was working on before she died. Jason is a terrible liar, though, so Max locks the door and starts kicking his ass. He starts to spill the beans as security is called when his secretary hears the noise. She calls BB, and he sets a heavily armed police unit on Max. At the same time, Jim Baruvia arrives wishing to talk to someone about Michelle. Jason, with Max, reveals that what Michelle was working on was a military contract to make soldiers tougher and more aggressive using a drug. It went wrong, though, as it sent the soldiers mad. All except 1% who came away invincible. The drug was also highly addictive, so much so that the test subjects would kill for an extra dose. Fine. Yeah, this is a fine explanation. And the situation with Max kicking the shit out of Jason, I'm okay with it. Jason also says that this isn't what happened to Michelle, though. And he will tell Max everything, but Max has to guarantee his safety. Get him out of the building alive and he'll turn star witness. He also tells Max to grab the envelope that holds the picture of Lupino. Jim, in the lobby, sees the heavily armed guard unit heading upstairs, so grabs his gun and follows. And Max's plan is to effectively walk out holding Jason as a hostage. Cool. I don't mind it. You're shaking your head. You disagree. How else was he going to get him out?
Oh, no. This is a bit where I spotted it twice. It's definitely a movie mistake.
Go on, what's the mistake?
Okay, so the bit when he's punching him in the face, and he's clearly broken his nose.
Yep.
Now, when he's sitting in a chair, there's no marks, there's no blood, nothing. Now, when he gets him outside, you can see the blood on his face.
Right. Okay.
But on the chair, there's nothing at all. No indication that he's been punched at all. I mean, when I saw it, I thought, hang on, he must have a cut or a mark or anything. Nothing. But then when he's outside with the gun to his head, it's all, you can see the marks in his face.
Yeah, I remember the mark on his face. Interesting. I didn't notice. Okay. Well, yeah, okay. Where are we? So Max walks out and the armed unit's in the office now holding guns. And he's got the gun to Jason's head and this goes immediately wrong. As the armed unit shoot Jason. It's clear straight away the armed unit are villains because they're going to take out the compromised guy, which is Jason. And finally, at just over 60 minutes, about 60 minutes and 10 seconds into a 100-minute movie, we finally get a big shootout. And it's good. I enjoy it. There is one major problem. Do you notice Max never reloads?
It seems to be a thing in most gun films. It just has infinite. It's like Resident Evil Gun Survivor, infinite handgun ammo.
But you reload. Like he never reloads.
Oh yeah.
He's shooting that gun a fucking lot, which is just silly. At the same time as this shootout is occurring, so Max is diving in between, like things to hide behind while this armed unit is shooting machine guns. You get a lot of people panicking, diving for cover because they're just shooting the place up. They don't really care who they hit. It's quite
getting killed.
Cool.
A lot of getting killed too. You know, a lot of just the staff.
Yeah, absolutely. We see Jim is heading up the stairs and he hears the gunshots. He calls in dispatch. Max then shoots a sprinkler to try and offer some form of distraction and uses that to grab the envelope and makes a run for it. Another one of those awesome shots as he's running slow motion down a hallway with cameras far away and the windows are shattering with gunshots.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Side by side. Big fan of that shit. More of that, please. He also gets shot here. Did you notice he gets shot here?
Yeah, in the shoulder.
You never know it afterwards, right? Like, you'd never know he got shot afterwards.
Nope.
Max dives for a door and wedges a cabinet against it, but immediately runs into Jim. They have a standoff, but Max is able to escape when the armed unit on the other side of the door breach it, and it create, like, obviously smoke from the breach. Max is able to escape. Later, Mona, remember her? Remember Mona? She's in this film. Arrives at our office and finds it broken into. She gets a gun out, but it's just Max watching a tape that was part of the envelope file. The tape talks about a drug named Valkyr that will massively improve soldiers' efficiency. It then cuts to an interview on the tape with Lupino before he was a crazy killer. He describes the drug as being calming and giving him more capabilities. Max believes Lupino killed his wife and Natasha. Mona tells him where Ragnarok is, and Max gets ready to go. Mona tries to tell him not to go, and once again, they stink up the scene. They stink up this fucking scene. I just wanted it to end. This is only their second time on camera together. Why would Mona give a fuck about Max Payne? And she knows this. Mila Kunis knows this, so she doesn't put the effort in. You know, and then she's like, oh, you don't care if you get out alive. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. Stop. Kick them both out of the film. They're terrible together. And as always said, Max Payne's going to Ragnarok. The anticipation for a big shootout. I'm like, yeah, man, we're going to have fun. Especially as we then see a shirtless Lupino looking at the city on the roof of Ragnarok, and he takes some of the drugs. You're like, oh, sweet. So he's going to be super jacked up. Max Payne with guns is coming. Yeah, man. Max gets in the club really easily, I must say, because the only protection is one guy.
One guy freezing his arse off.
Yeah. So Max Payne knocks him out. And unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, Max Payne fans, this is not fun. I found this actually be quite boring. As Max shoots some goons with a shotgun. I do like the way they sort of fly, like they get shot and fly off, which made me feel very video gamey.
So the only thing I liked about this entire scene is, I don't even know, but the sound the shotgun made, it's the exact same sound in the game where the bullets reload. Where you can hear the shells hitting the ground, and it's the exact same noise from the game.
That's awesome.
I thought, wow, that's cool.
That's awesome. I'm glad you noticed that. It's not exciting at all. There's like 4 dudes he takes out. And very much not the big shootout I was hoping for. But we do get a decent scene. Not a great scene, but a decent scene, which is a guy on a balcony. So Max is back and a guy comes running out the balcony and we switch to slow motion. The guy starts to shoot at Max and basically the sight of the drugs exploding, so this place has lots of the drugs, in slow motion is one of those that looks awesome. Yeah. And basically Max, slow motion, goes backwards and shoots the shotgun. We get that in as the bullets are missing him. I liked it. I didn't love it because it kind of looks like he just fell over. Whereas I feel like had they done Max jumping backwards, would have looked better. Mm-hmm. And almost immediately after that, Max finds Lupino's lair and is attacked by the man. This is not a good fight. Lupino easily gets the upper hand and just starts to babble on about flying angels and they love me and stuff like that. It is, when you consider this boss fight in the game, this is incredibly like, oh, is this it? Especially as BB arrives and shoots Lupino once in the chest and kills Lupino. Now, I get it. You're not actually invincible. The drug just makes you feel invincible. However, why not have it so Lupino shrugs off the bullet and BB has to shoot him several more times and then in the head? One bullet to the chest and it's over. That's our big bad guy.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna argue this bit in about 10 minutes time. Why I think it's ridiculous how he dies so easy.
It is ridiculous because I know exactly what you're referencing. When someone else who takes the drug gets shot to pieces, and yeah, we'll get to that. Absolutely. Max is naturally shocked to see BB there, but let's be honest. At this point, if you weren't already thinking BB was a baddie, the fact that he's here now would make you go, oh, okay, he's about to turn on Max Payne. He tells Max to come with him, but the moment they leave, Max is knocked out by BB's second in command, Joe. What? BB's a baddie? Oh. Rather than just kill Max Payne, they handcuff him and walk to the docks. And then possibly the dumbest part of the film, I hate this moment. BB decides to tell Max everything.
Typical villain story. It's a typical villain.
He might as well have had a cat and stroking it on a James Bond villain chair. He doesn't just tell him everything. He also tells him that he's the one who killed Michelle Payne and responsible for the drug getting out on the street. Oh my God. Oh, and the worst thing is, you know what the plan is? Think about it. He could just kill Max Payne and dispose of his body. He could. He could shoot him in his head, tie a weight to him, and put him in the water. Instead, they planned to make it look like he had an overdose by putting the drugs in his pocket and then weighting him down into the lake.
To be fair, though, his second in command, the second guy, he's saying to him, shouldn't we just kill him?
He says, yes, exactly that. It is absurd. They want to make it look like a suicide. I get that to a degree, but considering the danger Max Payne is, kill him and dispose of his body. You could get rid of his body. If, you know, it's absurd.
Even if they just killed him and left him on the floor. I mean, considering over 3 years, this drug's been killing loads of people. They've got away with it for over 3 years. I'm sure they can kill one crazy cop.
You know what I'd do? Considering would make more sense. Shoot Max and then bring his body into the room that Lupino was in. So it looks like they killed each other.
That's it, exactly.
But hey, that makes way too much sense. But to make this scene even worse, Mark Wahlberg, Max Payne, hearing about who's responsible for his wife's murder, looks like he couldn't give a fuck. I don't like, I've already said I don't like Mark Wahlberg in this movie, but this scene made me hate him. I get it, he's handcuffed and he's in trouble, but to not even react, like he doesn't say anything to fucking BB, like he doesn't try to fight him. He's just like...
The shock of trying to charge him. You know, even if he got shot in the leg or something, anything.
Something. I hated it. I was like, oh my God, you've just found out who's responsible for the death of your wife, and it's someone you cared about, someone you thought cared about you, and you literally couldn't care less.
I tell you, I know that's what you said there. You said the death of his wife and his baby.
Yes.
But see, because it doesn't. You missed that out completely because the fact that it doesn't tell you that.
It's so irrelevant to this film. You're right. Exactly. Well done. But guess what they do? They take his handcuffs off. Guess what happens? Max fights them off before diving into the water. This is where we came in. And I actually really like this water scene. It looks so cold. And you feel Max's desperation. The way the camera's filming is he's breaking for air, but the waves keep hitting him. Lovely stuff. I do think, fuck me, that couldn't have been fun for Mark Wahlberg to film.
No.
As Max sinks, he sees Michelle, who tells him, not yet, Max. Which gives him the drive to get to the surface. Could have done without that, but fair enough. We've now moved on from the start as Max pulls himself out of the water, but he's clearly in trouble. As he's going to die. He's going to die from hypothermia. Of course he is. So he does the only sensible thing. And I'll admit, this brought a smile to my face. Because I was like, before, as he got in the water, I said to my wife, he's going to have to take the drug. Obviously, Max Payne takes the drug in the game. Well, he's forced, the drug's forced on him.
Forced on him, yeah.
Yeah, so there is that difference. But I got excited and I was like, okay. And he takes both vials of the drug. And I was like, steady on, son. It's 2 of them. And
I got excited too.
Huh?
Until this next thing. I got excited too until this next thing.
Wow, we might have a very difference of opinion here. I thought this was spectacular. I thought
Really?
the scene was spectacular to show the effect of the drug on the mind. So, Color starts to run. You see Color going into Max's face. The sky literally rips open behind him. He's on his knees. There's fire everywhere, flying winged demons. He's screaming. I was like, yeah, man, this looks great. What's your problem with it?
The effects are good, but just to scream. I was quite expecting him, to turn into the Hulk.
Okay.
And it's turned into Incredible Hulk. You know, but I mean, I love the background. I love the scenes. I love the, like, I don't know what you call it, the flashes of light and all that. But the scream and Mark Wahlberg doing the scream too. For God's sake, man, he looked like an idiot.
I'm going to defend Mark Wahlberg here. I had no problem with it. I bought into it. I was so wowed by this scene that I bought into it. Because to me, what it told me was the drug is like fire in your veins. It's that fire that runs through your body, sets your mind alight, like bright colors, all that. Kind of what I imagine taking something like heroin must be kind of like, you know?
Well, yeah.
I thought it was spectacular. But this again got me excited because I was like, oh shit, a roided out Max assaulting Asa to kill BB. This should be a fantastic finale. And oh yeah, Mona might also help because we see her staring out of a window. Do you remember Mona's in this film? Fucking joke, man, isn't it? Joke.
Pointless.
So then we cut to Jim Barovia. And we kind of see, I already got the impression he was a good guy trying to do the right thing. But we get a great scene where in the police precinct, he's basically benched most of the force for what happened at Asa. Like, he suspects corruption. And what happened at Asa, he's not happy about. And he gets into one of the commander sergeants, but then the FBI have arrived. And it's like, oh yeah, things are going bad for the baddies. The FBI are here, and they're not happy about what's going on here. BB and Joe inside Asa are planning to leave via the garage. But when they get there, Max has already taken out the driver of the car and begins his rampage. And basically, it's Max with 2 guns just running and shooting. Did you notice the shot of the way he runs? Looked exactly like the video game.
This is probably I mean, it's, in my personal opinion, the best fight scene in the film, and probably the only one justified, really.
So Max kills a lot of the kind of officers, but BB and Joe manage to get away back into the lift. They kind of focus on Max's eyes and face, and you kind of see him like he's out of control here. BB calls Nicole and asks for her to send a helicopter to the roof. And it appears as she was here, we realize that she also knew about what happened to Michelle Payne, because BB says the Michelle Payne thing's coming back to bite us. The police have a helicopter en route too. Max basically continues his rampage through the building, shooting every security officer he comes across. I'd say it's a bloodbath, but there's no blood. We then see BB giving Joe some C4 and tells him to wire it so Max can't get to the roof. And I was like, yeah, we're going all Die Hard here. Sweet. You know what I mean? Only like the greatest movie roof explosion in the goddamn film universe is Die Hard.
Yep.
We then get another awesome scene as Max is overcome by the drug, and the sound of a helicopter appears to be frying his brain. He sees Michelle, the roof tears off, and the approaching demons look to have him. This is what I said earlier on about the demons being people when you're high on the drug, because we see a security officer approaching Max, and in Max's eyes, that's a demonic figure. That's where I got that from.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
The guy's going to kill Max, but Mona's sudden arrival, she shoots the security officer and it saves Max. And the demon sort of vanishes. It snaps Max out of his kind of thing for a moment. How did Mona get here?
Well, how did she manage? How did she get in the building past all the cops?
Yeah, not only that as well. Wouldn't Ace have kind of been locked down when a guy comes and starts assaulting? Wouldn't you have locked down the building? But Mona's here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we needed to have Mona in it, so there you go. She then tells Max to go and finish this and gives him his gun. It's as crap as always. These two have no chemistry. They have no chemistry. And this is just another scene of what the fuck?
She's saying go and finish this, okay, but your sister was also killed, so don't you want to help him?
How does she even know anything about BB?
Well, that's it, exactly, yeah. So
we see BB get into the roof. He tries to call Nicole as the helicopter isn't there, and she's ignoring him. So she knows she's sending BB to his death, basically.
Yeah.
I love the shot of the helipad where you kind of like up high and you see the city. I've seen that shot with the green screen. So the helipad was real, and it's a green screen around it, but you would never know, would you?
So I actually thought that was a proper city, actually. That's what I thought.
Brilliantly, it really holds up. Mona then comes across Joe, who has set C4 up, and stupidly, he goes for his gun. The thing is, he's got his back to her. He annoyed me here. He's got his back to her, and she's holding a gun at him. And he's got his arm here. And he's like, hey, don't do anything silly. And goes, and like, from the back, mate, should have seen you move your arm across. Like, obviously, you're going for your gun. A better way to do it would be to slowly, as you're turning around. But she shoots him. So she comes under further fire, but manages to get into a lift. Max gets to BB's office and has another demon vision as he sees him swarming outside the window over a city of flames. Again, awesome looking. It's awesome looking. Yeah, exactly. One sort of lands in the window. Max sort of reaches out to touch it. I quite like that scene as well. Outside, we see the police arriving as Jim tells them to take Max alive. Joe isn't dead, though, as we cut to him, and he sets off to C4 as we get a very die-hard explosion. Boof, boof. I love it. I thought it looked brilliant. The scene when they cut inside, because what they also do, you see it going outside, exploding, but they cut to inside, and you see the officers going, doosh, and everything flying across the room. Like,
it's a really cool scene.
I don't know this. They had to have really blown that shit up, right? Like the rooms, they had to have, because everything's going boof, boof, boof. A big fan of it. Looks great. It's also, that explosion is enough to snap Max out of his current vision. We then go to the roof where BB is contacting Nicole again, but she doesn't answer. Max arrives and BB manages to shoot Max several times. Max is hurt, but obviously feeling the effects of the drugs, he's able to get up, which is where, yeah, you can say it. This is what the issue was, wasn't it?
How can he kill the main villain, the main bad guy, apparently, with one shot, and yet Max can take, what, 20 shots?
Yep. Yeah, he takes a good few machine gun bullets. You see it's kind of the only blood you really see. You kind of see the blood marks on his shoulder.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah.
He approaches BB. BB babbles on about snow and confessing. And Max just shoots him before kneeling down to die. Michelle, though, visits again. We see Max sort of holding his baby. And then you hear Michelle saying, not yet again. We then hear Max narrating, but in a more positive way, as he talks about believing in angels. We see the police arriving on the roof and surrounding Max. And you kind of have a color scheme change here where the suns come up to give it a brighter look as the score swells. The credits start to roll, but hold on. Did you know there's an end credit sequence?
No, I didn't.
There's a scene at the after the credits.
I've got to watch that then, because I turned off as soon as the credit ended.
Don't get too excited. Nothing really happens, and I'm about to tell you what happens. It sees Max arriving at the bar. You know the bar we saw several times through it. And he's greeted by the barman, who gives Max 2 beers and then nods towards a table at the back. Max goes over, and Mona is sitting there. She shows him a newspaper article that has 2 things in it. Acer stock soaring, so they'll be really successful, alongside a picture of Nicole. They look at each other, and that's it. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you're trying to hint that the real bad guy has to be dealt with. E.g., for those who don't know, the actual final boss of the video game is Nicole. And Max takes her out by dropping a communications tower on top of the helicopter as she attempts to fly away. So they were hinting at a sequel that we obviously never, ever got, because this film is 12 years old, and we never will. We never will. That is Max Payne, the video game movie adaptation, a movie that is all style, no substance. Agreed?
Yeah, definitely.
Looks spectacular, has some nice ideas, tries its hardest to stick to the video game format as much as possible while trying to be its own movie, but drops the several balls in the most important areas. Casting. Mark Wahlberg does a bad job. He's not good in this, and he's not Max Payne. He's Mark Wahlberg. Mila Kunis is downright horrendous. Horrendous in this. The rest of the roles, the minor roles, most are okay, some are good. However, their desperation to put in so much story means action takes a back seat, and we go, as we said, almost an hour without anything that exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a real problem. Then the big moments from the game, the Ragnarok part, the Pinot fight and all that are done so poorly. That's a major issue. The fact that they didn't do the Max's wife and child murder point to 50 minutes in is a shocker, an absolute shocker. But if you want something that looks spectacular at times, will make you go, wow, even now, 12 years later, you will get it in this movie. For me, this is not the worst, and it's not the best. It sits right in the middle, because it does stuff right, but gets so much wrong as well.
Yeah, I was surprised actually. I enjoyed quite a lot of it, but like I said, to me, it was like good, bad, good, then bad. You know, but yeah, overall, I'd say it's definitely better than House of the Dead.
Oh, absolutely. This is certainly not up there, and there's many more worse ones to come. But there you go. That's Max Payne. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?